I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast, the show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Mr. Matthew Strunk. He is a serial entrepreneur with multiple business exits and is the founder of illumiShift. He helps people escape the success, quote unquote, success trap and create lives on their own terms. So, Matthew, thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot wait to hear about this program and this company and product that you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to get into it.
So, kind of explain a little bit about how this illumiShift kind of came to be, and was it always something that you kind of always had like in the back of your mind that you wanted to do?
Yeah, it was not something I've always had in the back of my mind. I mean, maybe as of the last few years, but it stemmed from, I guess, really, it stems from my story in a way that back when I was younger, grew up pretty poor and all those kinds of things, and I felt like a little bit lost in life. And what I kind of latched onto as a 18, 19, 20-year old was that I must not be happy because I don't have money, I don't have wealth, I don't have awards and all the accolades. Like I want to be like those guys, I'm kind of always comparing myself. So I went after those things, and if you fast forward a whole lot of years, I ended up creating some successful businesses. I ended up selling them. I made the money, did all the things, and I still felt lost, which felt very strange to me because it's like, crap, like I've just spent all this time chasing these things, and it still wasn't quite it. So illumiShift is the product of all of those experiences where I really wanted to help other people, help give back to other people, and help them not fall into those same traps that I fell into, and really try to help them build a life on their own terms based off of their vision. Because I think sometimes we operate sort of on autopilot based off of the expectations that we've inherited from the society or peers, parents, whatever it might be. So that's really where it stemmed from, was to see if I can't help other people not fall into the same traps that I did.
You've built and sold multiple businesses. What did those exits teach you about the hidden cost of success?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. One was, if you would have asked me when I first started the one company that was successful, why I started the business, I would have told you probably freedom. I think so. I wanted freedom and make my own decisions, do what I wanted to, when I wanted to, with who I wanted to. Like, I just want to do my own thing. And I guess one of the hidden costs is that you say those things, or at least for me, from my perspective, but you sacrifice a whole lot in the process. During that time frame, I was probably among the most depressed I've been. You just you grind yourself in ways you don't realize. And I think one of the hidden costs is that you're always trading something, you know? There's an opportunity cost to everything you do. So it's almost like, in a way, I gave up my freedom to try to chase freedom, but I wasn't really free. I was actually more of a prisoner of my own making, if that makes sense. And I think that's one of the hidden costs there is falling into that trap that once I get to the end or once I achieve this thing, then I can finally start to live and then I can finally be happy. But that end doesn't really come because you just set another goalpost further down the field and it just always keeps getting kicked down the field. So it's kind of a trap of sorts. And I learned that as well. You know, you kind of get to the top of the peak and you go, oh, this isn't the peak. This isn't what I was looking for. So you just keep going. And yeah. And then throughout all of that, you fast forward 10 years into it and it's like, man, I gave up a whole lot of freedom chasing all this stuff, you know, and a lot of inner, um, a lack of inner peace, I guess, was what I was spending to try to chase this freedom. So I wouldn't have told you that that's what I was doing at the time, but it's what was happening.
So when it comes to the founder of being illumiShift, tell me a little bit about what this company is and how this particular company came to originated from.
Yeah. So, illumiShift, I'd say our mission is to help other people, really uncover clarity, so basically we want to help you remove noise so that you can uncover the clarity necessary to figure out what your truth is and what it is you actually want to accomplish in life. I speak with a lot of individuals where if I ask them what their life vision is and what it is they're trying to achieve, they can't really answer that question. They haven't really thought that far down, if you would. And without that information, without being able to articulate that, it's really challenging to make decisions in life, because you don't have anything to anchor it to. You're kind of just going through the motions. So with the LumaShift, the goal is to help people identify that for themselves so that they have something kind of to work off of, if you would. Um, and it started off with coaching, so doing like coaching work with clients, and it's kind of evolved into doing more content work as well. I'm launching a YouTube channel like in 3 weeks probably. We have a bunch of long form videos we've created that we're going to start releasing. But yeah, so it's kind of everything's centered though around helping other people discover their truth so that they can live life on their terms. And whether that's through coaching, whether that's through content, whether that's through group programs, it doesn't really matter as long as we're moving towards that mission of helping to free other people in that same way.
Can you explain a little bit about the purpose paradox and why so many people fall into it?
Yeah. Yeah. So the purpose paradox is an idea that I kind of came up with where um in my life I always felt like it was hard to get traction. Like I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but like you try to make let's just say you try to make some sort of lifestyle change, right? Might be exercise, might be nutrition, it might be sleep, it might be work stuff. Like it doesn't relationships, it doesn't matter what it is. You try to make these changes and maybe you start to get some traction, you start to feel better, you go, wow, this is really like who I want to be, I think. And you start kind of feeling like you're making progress and then something happens. Maybe it's a fight, an illness, vacation, work, whatever, and then you slip way back into your old ways like hard and you just derails everything and it's like you just fall off the tracks. And what I never understood is if when I'm eating better and exercising and doing whatever the things is that I'm trying to change, and I feel really good while I'm doing it, and when I'm not doing it, I feel not so good. Why would I ever choose the self-sabotage route? Like it doesn't make any sense to me. Why I would stop doing things that make me feel good, you know? And what I have found in my life was that making those lifestyle changes when it's not anchored in something important enough to you is why we often fail. So let me give you this. You basically need purpose or identity to tie it back to. But the problem is it's really hard to uncover that purpose in the modern day world that we live in. So we're so overwhelmed with technology and social media. We eat poorly, we sleep not well. We literally build up a fog in our brains that we can't even think super clearly. So it's really difficult to find the answers to those questions. Like, what is my purpose? What's my identity? And since we can't find that, we can't use it as an anchor. But if we only had that, then we can make those changes. And that's the paradox, it's the loop of sorts. You need purpose to change, but you first need to change in order to find your purpose. And that's the loop, if you would.
When it comes to overall success, you talk about that there's this quote unquote dirty secret when it comes to success. What do you mean exactly by that?
Kind of, I guess, what I was alluding to earlier, where it seems like when you don't have certain things that you want those things, especially like in our society around wealth or money or whatever it is. So it seems like it's an answer. Like if I had more money or if I had more status, then I would be happy. And I remember when before I started the businesses that actually succeeded, I remember feeling like almost aggravated when I would hear some rich person talk about how it's not the answer, or money can't buy happiness, like all that stuff. It's like, yeah, I know, but it pays my rent, and not paying my rent makes me pretty unhappy. So it's like maybe that kind of thing. And after I had achieved a lot of those things, I felt myself in that same trap of like, oh shit, like this isn't it. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Don't get me wrong, it's great in some ways, but it's not the silver bullet you think it is. But it's a dirty secret because you can't really talk about it without seeming like you're ungrateful or you're arrogant or something like that. So it's like this weird trap of sorts where it's like if you achieve it, you want to tell other people like, "Yo, this isn't like I'm over here. It's not as good as it looks." But then they're like, "No, you're just being like, a ridiculous wealthy person who is just like spitting lies or something." Like, I don't know. It's like this weird kind of stigma against it almost. So then they don't say anything. And then we all just keep chasing after these things. And yeah, I don't think it's the secret to living a happy life or a peaceful life is to just keep chasing the success. But successful people won't tell you that because it's not doesn't come off well, I guess, if they say that. A lot of them, that is.
How common is it for people that when they do these when they're doing businesses where they get senses of being stuck, is it a common thing, or is there kind of like statistics and some research that's been done of how frequent that this feeling of stuckness can stem from?
Yeah, so there is. I know like I have not necessarily like overlaid onto business owners per se, but there's plenty of studies that talk about people who feel like they have meaning in life or purpose in life. Like one that was on Psychology Today, I think showed that like 29% of respondents said like they've got not a damn clue. Like there's like nothing for them. They don't really know what they're doing. Some studies I've seen or even much higher than that, 60 to 70% of folks that just really felt like they were kind of lost without real meaning and they didn't actually know what the purpose of it all was. As far as business owners specifically, I think a lot of that is anecdotal kind of experience myself, talking to peers and things of that nature, where it's like, yeah, I think a lot of them go through that. And part of it is because of the motivation behind it. And I'll give you an example. I've spoken to two separate business owners, one who's trying to get rich and make the money and do the things. They might say they're trying to do something that's different than that. But the real motivation is to build wealth and gain freedom, that kind of stuff, financial freedom. And another individual who is driven by a genuine passion or purpose or some sort of meaning that they're trying to fulfill. And the outcomes are very different. So, the person who's trying to fulfill a meaning, purpose, or their identity might work 80 hours a week, the same as this person that's just chasing money. But the person chasing the money without any real reason as to why might be experiencing crazy burnout and feeling stuck and all those types of things. Like it's so much of it's driven from your why. Knowing why you're doing it matters a lot because if you don't understand why you're doing it, then why are you doing it? You know, that kind of thing. So I don't know if that answers your question. As far as the data, yeah, there's some more so generic data as far as business owners. I think it's more anecdotal, in my experience.
Is there is there like a common job field where people feel most stuck in, whether it's from, say that they want to build a construction business and it's really difficult? Are there certain careers that are more difficult than others?
I don't think so. That's a good question. I don't know that I can answer that with any certainty. I would only be able to speculate. I can tell you that I've found, again, this is in my small world, if you would, but sales seems oddly like a top one of sorts that I come across, but maybe it's just because of my background. But a lot of people in sales, kind of the culture is very hustle, like grind hard kind of culture to make your quota, to make more money. And like it's very financially driven in a lot of sales industries. And I think that maybe that's why is because you find yourself working these long hours and grinding to meet the monthly quota so you can make the bonus and make all the money. But maybe that's not really anchored in something very real for you. You know, maybe it's not really based in your truth. It's just what you think you should be doing and you're making good money, which you think is important, but you're not sure why. And then you start asking those questions.
So when it comes, kind of going back to your company with illumiShift, there's a thing that you do with your clients that where it's called the hidden path. Kind of tell me a little bit about who it's mainly targeted for and how does it help them, and kind of explain a little bit more about what the hidden path is.
Yeah. Yeah. So the hidden path is a framework I've been working on building because I've been trying to figure out a way to to create guidelines or some sort of structure to help someone go from stuck in life and lost and feeling like they can't get traction to living life on their terms where they actually feel free and they're doing the things they want. And so I've been taking a lot of the things that I've used over long, almost 20 years now of research and paying way too much money in coaches and therapists and all these things. And I've kind of curated a framework that I use to help facilitate that change in other people. So the individuals I work with typically is just people who feel stuck in life. They're not getting traction and they keep looping around and it's frustrating. That's the kind of individual who seeks the hidden path. And the idea behind the hidden path is that it's contrarian thinking compared to the normal path in life, which is you go to school, you graduate, you get your job, you make the money, you find someone to marry, you have kids maybe, do the fence around the house, invest in your 401k for 40 years, and then you like die. Like that's kind of the path. So the hidden path is one that is different, if you would. And the way the framework is set up is it's three phases. Phase one is to remove the noise, to remove the clutter. So this goes back to the idea that many of us are stuck, but we can't hear ourselves think because we're either scrolling on TikTok for hours or we're eating poorly, we're not sleeping well, whatever it is. We're physically and mentally unwell. So we can't even, like, where do we even start, you know? So phase one, we clear the noise, and that's where we work together to identify the biggest levers we can change in that person's life to start giving them some distance, to start giving them some space so they can start gaining some sort of clarity. And it's different for individuals. A lot of times it might be sleep, or sometimes it's toxic relationships, but we're basically identifying those things and we're working on a plan to make changes to give you that space again. That's phase one. Remove the noise. Phase two is now that you've given yourself some space that you can actually hear yourself think again. Now you have to go typically inward. And this is where you have to really get honest with yourself of who it is that you believe you are and what it is you're trying to accomplish in life. And the best way I've found to do that is really to turn inward because like for myself, I used to chase that answer all over the damn place. And it wasn't until I just stopped and listened to myself for a little bit that I started to gain some of that clarity. So that's phase two. And in full transparency, a lot of times in phase two, there could be different healing opportunities of sorts. So I work with um, a licensed counselor, like a therapist who specializes in some of this stuff, because what I've also found is that sometimes we have blockers from past trauma that is also kind of holding us back and we don't even necessarily realize it, you know? So like for myself, maybe I go, oh, why do I keep shoving blizzards down my face and ice cream down my face? I assume I'm just addicted to the sugar and everything else, which in the dopamine hit on it, which has some truth, but oh wait, there's actually something tied maybe back to some childhood experience that I never even realized that was actually kind of creating that desire in myself. So phase two is kind of the you get really serious, I guess. You know, like I said, it might include therapy, maybe it doesn't, but it does always include turning inward to figure out what it is you want from life. Truly, what is your truth, not based on anything else except for yourself. And then once you know that, that's when we move into phase three, which is where a lot of the fun begins because now you have a North Star that you can follow. Now you can answer the question, who am I? And you can answer the question, what am I here to do? And you can really get clear on what it is you're trying to accomplish. And that's phase three. So you can start realigning your life around that truth. And what I've found is when you have something like that, something that feels so real, all of those lifestyle changes that we talked about earlier, if they're in service of that mission, they become infinitely easier because it's not just, oh, I work out so I can like look better or something. Like, no, it's a very specific reason that I'm doing it. And it makes it easier to actually execute against it. And yeah, it could be career, people, whatever it might be. All of those things become really quite clear because you have something to refer to. You know what your values are. You know what your North Star is. And that's the idea with the hidden path. And then once you get through phase three, you're kind of on that path. And it's not like you're done now. It's a continuous process. So it's really just a cyclical process of sorts to make sure you stay on that track and refine and at however often you need to moving forward.
With the program and for helping people, can you share some experiences and just some uh, stories from people that have done the program that have successfully been able to not get to get unstuck from their business and have had their business succeed from the program?
Yeah, I think so. So I have um, a few different examples, I guess. And one of them that comes to mind is someone who does his business is like in accounting and stuff like that. And he wanted to make a pivot away from that because he felt stuck and unhappy and all the things, you know. And we went through all this work and really kind of cleared the noise to figure it out. And he was starting to lean towards like doing something like being a pilot, basically, was something that he was passionate about. And then you saw him kind of walk it backwards and justifying all of the reasons why that won't work and why that's not the real thing he should do, and you know, so on and so forth. And as we're moving forward, he kind of looped back around and justified that the accounting business is what he wants to do. You know, that's what it is. And we went through an exercise where we basically wanted to challenge that belief to make sure that it was true. And it was tough for him to do, but it was like basically being willing to let go was where we had to get to. So we went through that and he realized like, yeah, you know what, this isn't this isn't what I want to do. And it just have to take the faith, that jump, if you would. So for him, it was about letting go of the past with that business, which enabled him the opportunity to move forward with this new passion that was more fulfilling. So that's an example of one where perhaps the business didn't continue as an outcome, but it didn't really matter because his life is what was improving at the afterwards, if you would. So that's one example. The other example I have, which this isn't about a business again per se. Because what I've found, I guess, as it relates to business more specifically, is we work on the individual more so, and then the business becomes obvious. Whether you're going to keep it, sell it, hire someone to run it, like all those things kind of become an outcome of it in phase three once you have the clarity of your truth. And so far, I found that a lot of them don't want to be doing that anymore in some way or another. And I'm kind of going on a tangent of sorts, but the one story I wanted to share with you was someone individually who went through it and super intelligent, super like willing to do the work. And we were going through all the things, and we kept looping back to this like tendency that he had, which turns out it kind of stemmed from an issue with his mom growing up, essentially. And we turned him over and he started to do therapy with one of the therapists that I work with. And that unlocked like so much because he was almost excluding that as a possibility. And as such, he kept finding himself stuck. And once he was willing to address the root cause of it, all of a sudden things kind of broke through for him, if you would. And yeah, I think that was another kind of impactful story that, at least from my perspective.
What's been the biggest thing you've learned from trial and error when it comes to people being stuck, and even from your own experience, what's been some of the best advice you've received of how to cope with being stuck and how been able to overcome it and get out of that box?
Yeah, good question. Um, awareness, I think really increasing your awareness every day is probably some of the best advice that I received. Every thought, the things you do, becoming aware as to why it's happening, because oftentimes the first few iterations of a thought are normally not stemmed from anything super real, if that makes sense. So for me, having that awareness is important because like I would find myself thinking something, getting ready to do something, but the root cause of that thought was stemming from some lie or some fear that I had, and it wasn't really based in anything true. So being aware allows me to see that and see those motivations and kind of back, whoa, let me disassociate with the actual thought and let me figure out what it is I want to do. So awareness as to why you're doing what you're doing, I think is probably the best advice I've had. Because it really comes back to that, I think. Awareness, being aware, when you go to do it, why am I doing this? Oh, I don't know. Well, you start chasing that back, and then once you figure out why you're doing it, things become pretty obvious, I think.
If someone is listening right now and maybe they are going through the same thing that your clients have gone through, or they have that thing where they're thinking, this is me, I've done everything right, but I still feel stuck. I just can't seem to get out of this box. What would you tell them as advice of how to cope with it and be able to get out of that situation?
I think the thing that comes to mind is I would encourage them to find some quiet space, maybe ask themselves, what are they not admitting to themselves? What are they not saying? I think a lot of us know more than we think we do about the things that are keeping us stuck. If you allow yourself to get radically honest and transparent with yourself, and you ask, what is it that's truly holding me back? I feel like your intuition and your gut often will serve you up the answer. Um, yeah. And I know that's not super, maybe it doesn't feel super tangible, but I think that's probably where I would start is to ask them to ask themselves the question, what is holding me back in truth, and see what comes from that.
With you having such a successful career and having such a successful business, what are some goals and some bucket list items that you'd like to do for illumiShift? Do you plan on expanding it? Do you plan on maybe making or trying it in another business thing? Do you have any huge bucket list goals that you'd like to achieve that you haven't yet achieved?
Yeah, I think a lot because I really want to try to expand the impact of it the best I can, and part of that is still refining the system, in full transparency, because it is relatively new, a newer endeavor. So I'm still working on the framework. I have the intention of writing a book around it and trying to release like a workbook of sorts that you can follow along and kind of use. In business, there's operating systems like that, which are very like in a box. You can kind of open it up and like this is how you run quarterly meetings and this is how you set goals and like it's just do the things. And that's kind of my vision, is to give someone that kind of framework they can do in their own life of like clearing the noise and finding that clarity to figure out their own truth. But yeah, I want to expand it. In my vision of it, that is, we're doing group coaching cohorts where there's groups of individuals who are going through this together to provide each other with support. There's some one-on-one coaching. There's the book, um, doing the content on YouTube and short form content, things like that, and even like retreats and things of that nature. Like, kind of want to have all of that come out of this, if you would, all leading back to that same purpose of clearing the noise, finding clarity, figuring out your truth, and then realigning your life around that. That's what all of those things are supposed to help lead path back to. And I would say one other thing is the idea of it being more of a movement. So it's not so much about me as much as other individuals helping each other do it as well. So perhaps you become certified in the hidden path framework and you can help individuals yourself or whatever it might be. So that way it's more of a something that can get pushed on beyond me.
If people would like to maybe get in contact with you, if they would like to maybe try this program out and would like to um get some help on the businesses, or if they just have general questions that they're unsure of, where can they best find you at and get connected with you?
So LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on there. And I would say the website illumishift.com is a great starter place as well. On there, there's a schedule, like a free discovery call kind of form. So anyone that wants to talk about anything really related to this stuff can go on there and just schedule time with me directly. I encourage people to do that or to reach out to me with the contact form, but either of those two would work. But I love talking to people, regardless of, client, not client. If there's anything I can do to help, I want to try to do it. So lumishift.com or LinkedIn as the secondary.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and talking about this program and talking about this source that's good for businesses because starting a business can be tough. And even when you get a very successful business, it can be very overwhelming. So I do appreciate you sharing this and giving some really good tips. I think people that are coming up that are in college now and are wanting to go into business and start a business, this is great advice for them to start out at. And that there are resources for them available. So I do appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing those with me today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Hopefully it helps. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you on the path.
I will put all of his links down below. I'll put his website. I'll put the website for illumiShift as well as his LinkedIn down there. So if you want to get in contact with him about maybe wanting to do the program, or if you just have general questions, I'll put all of those links down there so that you can have them to where you can get in contact with him. Feel free to also follow me on social media as well as Instagram, TikTok at Lethal Venom Podcast, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And feel free to subscribe and follow Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcast from. I'm available on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Pandora, among other platforms. So feel free to follow the podcast on any of those so that you get notified when new episodes come out. Thank you to everyone for tuning in to today's episode. Hopefully, you learned something from today. Um, Hope y'all have a great rest of your day and week. Be safe, and I'll see you on the next episode of Lethal Venom.